Welcome, welcome. Oh my goodness, I'm so excited to be here. And I know some of you attended Maya's session. This is so funny because I attended Maya's session back in April, I think. And actually, my visualization was all about speaking on stage. So it's kind of a full circle moment, right? So it does work. So after mental fitness, we're going to talk about gut fitness, I guess. Right. So my session is all about food, mood, and digestion, right? So my name is Amani. I am a nutritional therapist and I specialize in gut and cardiometabolic health. So the reason why I'm really freaking passionate about this topic is because of this. Oh my goodness, we have gone a little bit cray-cray with supplements, right? So as you can see here, the dietary supplements market is expected to reach $327 billion by 2030. This is huge. And don't get me wrong, I do love supplements. I take supplements myself. I recommend supplements to my clients in the right context, obviously. But what I actually really want to do is to go back to the foundations of health. And obviously nutrition is an important pillar, of health, right? Because as I said, supplements are great, but at the end of the day, I really feel like nowadays the supplement industry is kind of conveying a message that kind of suggests that we can supplement our way out of a bad diet, right? And I could not disagree more, right? Now, I do have a passion for health and nutrition, and it obviously started like many, many years ago. And I want to tell you a little bit more about my own health journey. Right, this is how it started. So on your left, right, you've got a picture of me when I was 12, right? And I remember that day like it was yesterday. So when I was 12, for the first time, I went to a theme park, which is Six Flags in Belgium. I'm from Belgium myself. And I had the best day ever. But I remember this day like it was yesterday because my life was about to change, right? So the following week, I went to see a doctor because I had been struggling with allergies for a while and I didn't really know what was going on. So I went to see the doctor, and what happened is that I did a spirometry assessment. So basically you have to blow into a device that looks like a balloon to kind of, assess your lung capacity, to measure your lung capacity. And obviously I was told, well, there you go, young lady, you have asthma. And I was given medication and an inhaler, and they told me basically, this is gonna be your life from now on. Obviously at 12, I had no idea what was really going on, but I went along with what they said, so I started taking my medication, and actually, unfortunately, years went by and things started getting worse and worse and worse. So every year I was going back to the doctor to do the same assessment, and they were basically telling me that things were not getting any better. And it got to a point where I really felt like, I don't know if you've ever felt like that, but you feel like your body is failing you, that you're kind of trapped in a body that is not really yours. That's exactly how I felt. But anyways, I went on about my life. After uni, I moved to Dublin and I started working for tech companies. There's a big tech hub in Dublin. And from the outside, I had the perfect life, right? Because I had a great job, I had great friends, I was traveling a lot, everything looked really, really good. But I started developing other symptoms, such as anxiety, to the point that I even started having panic attacks. I also struggled with insomnia, bloating. So for example, I would get bloated after eating carrots one day, and then the next day would be sweet potatoes. I had no idea what was going on. I also had skin rashes, so my skin was very itchy. And the most horrible, I would say, sugar cravings as well. So basically, I could eat a whole cake from Marks and Spencer, I still remember, within 30 minutes. It was bad. And then the brain fog. I mean, you kind of know, well, maybe some of you know how it feels like. But basically, it got to a point where it really started affecting my life. And I was just like, okay, I need to do something about it. So this is what happened. On the verge of burnout, I decided to take a break. So I decided to take a whole month of work, and I traveled, very spontaneous decision. I traveled to Thailand. I booked a flight to Thailand. I was just like, I'm going to sort out my life. And this was one of the best decisions of my life, to be honest, because even though I had no idea what I was going to do over there, I had finally, for the first time, a little bit of time to do a bit of self-reflection. And I realized that I was not happy with my body, as in like I wasn't feeling, my best self. So, and I had seen a couple of health professionals and they had all told me, well, Amani, you just need to rest, right? And I know a lot of people, get frustrated when they have that answer from health professionals, right? Because all I wanted to do, was to have some answers. I wanted to understand why I was so bloated, why I had all my skin rashes, etc., etc. And when they say, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And one day I was inspired to walk into a wellness center. I was still in Thailand, and I walked into the wellness center, and there's this lovely lady who's a nutritionist and a herbalist as well. And we had a little chat, and we clicked instantly. And I decided to work with her. So within one consultation, she was able to connect all of the dots. And basically, guess what was going on with my health? It was basically my gut microbiome, which was out of balance. So I started working with her. And then, obviously, I came back to Dublin and I continued following the protocol. And I kid you not, within 6 to 8 months, I felt like a brand new person. No more bloating, no more skin rashes, no more insomnia, no more panic attacks. And I was just like, oh my God, this is incredible. Everyone needs to know about this. So I was just like, I cannot keep this to myself. Hence why I decided to retrain as a nutritional therapist. So that was 4 years. That was intense, but totally worth it. And this was literally 6 years ago. I quit my corporate job and I was just like, let's do this. So how it's going? So I am a nutritional therapist and functional medicine practitioner. So basically what I do is that I help my clients uncover and address the root causes of their symptoms. It's good to know you have asthma, but why do you have it in the first place? It's good to know that you are bloated, that you have IBS, but why is it happening? So that's what I do. And I'm also a lecturer at the Institute for Optimal Nutrition in Richmond. I love teaching, it's really a passion of mine. And I do well-being workshops, right? And some of you might remember me from the gut health panel back in February with these 4 powerhouses. It was absolutely amazing. So my mission is very clear. I want to make the world a healthier place, one gut at a time. And by the way, if there's anyone interested in a career transition, come talk to me because there's a lot of work to do. And so we need more wellness professionals. All right. So this brings me nicely to the topic of today. And I'm going to lead with this session with this quote. Food is not just calories. It is information. Food is not just there to satisfy your taste buds. It talks to your DNA and tells it what to do. Let me give you an example. If you eat broccoli, broccoli contains a compound called sulforaphane. And sulforaphane can actually activate certain genes that are responsible for detoxification. Basically, broccoli is good for you. Now, if you're someone who likes eating McDonald's for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, no judgment, and this is exactly what's happening. So the compounds in these inflammatory foods will then activate other genes which are responsible for inflammation. So what I love about this quote is that it's actually really empowering because you've got the power, literally the most powerful tool to change your health is your fork. And if there is one thing that I want you to take away from this session is this. You've got the power, 100%. I mean, for the most part, for sure. All right, so on to the topic of today. I did a bit of research, because I wanted to find out about the prevalence of, mental health challenges in the UK. And this is what I found. 1 in 4 adults experiences mental health issues each year in the UK and probably, in most countries. And it might be you, maybe you are someone who is experiencing mental health issue. I definitely was that person a couple of years ago. Or maybe you know someone who's struggling. And in terms of symptoms, there's obviously so many different symptoms and the list is non-exhaustive here. So you could be someone who is constantly tired, no matter how long you sleep, how many hours you get, you are constantly tired. Or you're someone who's worrying a lot, constantly worrying. Or maybe you are someone like myself who was extremely anxious and who used to have panic attacks as well. Or isolation, you don't even want to socialize anymore, right? But I actually really want to challenge these statistics because I think there's probably more than 1 in 4 adults, experiencing mental health issues. And the reason why I say this is because nowadays, in today's world, we kind of wear stress and overwhelm like it's a badge of honor, Because when we're stressed, when we're overwhelmed, it means that we are working hard, we're top achievers. And this is probably why as well a lot of people don't really realize that they are on the verge of burnout, which was my case a couple of years ago, right? Now, when it comes to mental health challenges or issues, the most common treatment is usually antidepressants, right? So for anxiety and depression, we usually, recommend, most health practitioners will recommend antidepressants. And what I always say is that there is definitely a place for medication. Antidepressants can save lives. Antidepressants can really support a lot of people, but generally they are not a long-term solution. First of all, because they do not address the root cause of the problem, right? And then over time, when you stop taking your antidepressants, a lot of people will experience what I call a setback. Because the way antidepressants work, they basically make serotonin more available in your brain. So they kind of trick your brain into thinking that there's enough serotonin. So your brain will start producing less serotonin. So when you come off your medication, then you can potentially get in trouble. But even beyond that, nowadays, everyone has heard about, the gut-brain connection. There are more and more studies showing the benefits of supporting our gut microbiome to support our mental health. And this is definitely what I'm going to discuss today. All right, so let's start with this really interesting study. So in 2019, there was a study on the gut-brain connection that was released, right? And this was one of the first large-scale studies in humans, not rats, in humans, to establish the link between the gut and the brain. And the way it happened is that there was a scientist, a Belgian scientist actually, who analyzed the gut microbiome of 1,000 people who had been diagnosed with clinical depression. And what he found out is that these people, all of these people, had low levels of Coprococcus and Dialister, which are 2 bacteria in the gut microbiome. And they are actually involved in the production of metabolites, which are involved in reducing inflammation, and they are also involved in the production of happy chemicals such as serotonin that probably everyone knows, right? So this was fascinating because it was one of the first studies done, in humans. And then from that year, a lot more studies in humans were then published. And when we think about recent studies, more recent studies are showing that up to 60% of people with depression experience gut imbalances. Now, there's one thing that I want to say about this slide in particular. So when we say gut imbalances, very often we think about the obvious, bloating, diarrhea, constipation, all of that sexy stuff. But actually, and I see that a lot in clinic, I see a lot of people, so I look at their gut microbiome test, and even though they don't have any obvious gut problems, they're still experiencing gut imbalances, what we call dysbiosis. So there's an imbalance in their gut bacteria, which can also trigger, feelings of anxiety. And other studies have shown that people who take probiotics can experience up to a 32% reduction in depressive symptoms. So this gut-brain connection is real and it works. And obviously this session, the first part, obviously I'm going to talk more about the science and the mechanism, and then towards the end, I'm going to give you lots and lots of tips. Because my approach is really a food-first approach. As I said, supplements are great, but at the end of the day, I believe we need to go back to the basics. All right, so just so we are all on the same page, I want to do like a crash course on the gut microbiome, right? So everyone has heard of the gut microbiome. So the gut microbiome is basically a vast ecosystem made up of trillions of bacteria, fungi, yeast, etc., etc. I like to use the analogy of the Amazon rainforest. So in the Amazon rainforest, you've got the fauna, you've got the flora, and all the species basically live in symbiosis. And if one species goes extinct for some reason, then another species will overgrow or overpopulate, right? And this can disrupt, the ecosystem. And it's literally the same in the gut microbiome, right? So we've got trillions of bacteria weighing up to 2 kilos, which is the equivalent of a liver, if that helps. And we have as many bacteria as we have human cells. And that's really, really important because, when we think about supporting, someone with type 2 diabetes or someone with obesity or someone with arthritis even, we need to think about the gut microbiome. Our gut microbiome is connected to most of our body systems. And as we know, and today we're discussing the link between our gut and our brain, between what we eat and how we feel, we cannot not talk about neurotransmitters. So about 90% of serotonin is produced in the gut. This is fantastic. Serotonin, as you probably know, is associated with feeling happy, feeling good, feeling grounded. And 50% of dopamine is produced in the gut. And dopamine is associated with feeling focused, feeling productive, right? So this is really, really important to know. Now, what is this gut-brain connection about and how does it work? So before I go into the sciencey bits, I want to show you 2 examples of the gut-brain connection because this is something that we experience every single day. Right. Let me ask you this question. How do you feel before delivering a presentation? And I'm going to put myself on the spot. So how do you feel before delivering a presentation? Could be at work, could be a presentation like this one, could be, you need to deliver a speech at your best mate's wedding. Maybe you need to have a really important conversation with your boss, telling them that you're about to quit or you want a pay raise. So how do you feel? Generally, what people will say is that they feel like they have butterflies in their stomach, right? Or sometimes they can feel like their stomach is tied up in knots. Or they're going to feel nauseous and sometimes they're going to need to run to the bathroom, right? So this is an example of the gut-brain connection because the body senses stress and it will communicate that information to the gut, right? Now, let me give you another example of the gut-brain connection. How do you feel after party weekend? Let's say you just came back from Ibiza. You went partying, you went there for a stag do, a hen do, and you had the best time ever. And you drank a little bit too much, and maybe you ate a little bit too much of the not so gut-friendly foods. And then you come back on Monday and you feel completely out of it. Maybe you will experience the hangover, depression, but you will feel a little bit meh for a couple of days because all of that inflammation is communicated to your brain. Another example of the gut-brain connection. Right, so let's go into the sciencey bit now. So the gut-brain connection, you kind of understand how it all works now, but basically it says that the gut and the brain communicate with each other 24/7. So there's a bidirectional communication between the gut and the brain. And this is done amongst many other ways, but this is done via the vagus nerve. The vagus comes from Latin and it means wanderer, right? So there's this nerve that we can actually see here in yellow, and it's the biggest cranial nerve, and it goes from the back of the skull all the way down to the gut. And it innervates, as you can see, it innervates different organs such as your lungs, your heart, your gut microbiome, your digestive system as well. And so information is being sent from your gut to your brain and from your brain to your gut. Now, what is really, really interesting is that there is actually more communication going from the gut to the brain than the other way around. And you've probably all heard that we say that the gut is kind of the second brain. And some scientists will sometimes even say that the gut runs the show, right? So when it comes to what's going on in the gut microbiome, obviously we know that we have gut bacteria. And they help to produce neurotransmitters such as serotonin and dopamine as well that can influence our digestion and our mood. So what is really interesting is that actually serotonin doesn't travel to the brain, but it sends a positive information via the vagus nerve to the brain so we can feel chill and relaxed, right? But gut bacteria also produce a byproduct, which is called short-chain fatty acids. And one of the most important short-chain fatty acids is butyrate. And this butyrate, or generally short-chain fatty acids, help to reduce inflammation. So if you do remember the study conducted by the Belgian scientist, he looked at specific bacterial strains which are involved in the production of short-chain fatty acids that reduce inflammation in the gut and actually also in the brain. So when it comes to supporting mental health, what we're really after is serotonin, potentially dopamine, and short-chain fatty acids. All right. So I want to talk a little bit more about stress in particular, because this is something that a lot of clients come to me with and struggle with as well. So obviously, because of the gut-brain connection, stress can affect your digestion. And I'm going to give you a little bit of an explanation here because I think it's really important to understand what's going on in your body. So when you are stressed, your body goes into the fight or flight state, right? And it triggers the release of cortisol. So you're stressed, so your body's like, okay, we are in danger. We need to either run away from the danger or we need to fight back, right? So what's going to happen is that, and depending on the type of stress that you're experiencing, if, for example, you are experiencing acute stress, such as, I don't know, like something crazy happened today, or you need to run somewhere, or you're delivering a presentation and you feel particularly stressed, then what happens is that your body's like, okay, I need to have as much energy as possible, so I can't be spending energy digesting food. So what's going to happen? Well, fast transit, cramps, and then you're going to have to run to the bathroom, right? Now, if you are someone who's struggling with chronic stress, so every single day you are exposed to stress, you work in a stressful environment, then what's going to happen is that your body is going to go into survival mode, and you're going to want to your body's going to want to preserve energy. So everything will slow down instead. Slow transit, bloating, constipation. I see that a lot with clients. They come to me with bloating, constipation. Obviously, we need to address the nutrition side of things. But then when we talk about their work environment or, I don't know, family environment as well, there's often a lot of stressors, right? Okay. Now, obviously, stress affects your digestion, but how does your nutrition affect your mental health, right? So, as you know, when your diet is not, let's say, optimal, it can lead to what we call dysbiosis. So dysbiosis is basically an imbalance in, gut bacteria, because, your, let's say, ultra-processed foods are feeding the not-so-friendly bacteria, right? Meaning that the healthy bacteria cannot produce happy chemicals, such as serotonin and dopamine, and also short-chain fatty acids. Remember, when it comes to mental health, we're after serotonin and short-chain fatty acids, right? And obviously, this will lead to chronic inflammation and contributes to mental health decline. So these are the two things when it comes to the gut-brain connection that we really want to pay attention to. All good so far? Amazing. You're good. I'm gonna do a quiz at the end. I'm joking. Absolutely not, I promise. All right, so that's kind of it for the sciencey bit. Now, I'm all about practical tips. So I want to give you a couple of tips to eat yourself happy, right? So I'm going to give you 3 specific tips to start feeling better, to really boost your mood. And as I said, my approach is a food-first approach. Supplements are great, but always start with the foundation, so good nutrition. And the first tip that I'm going to share with you is not something that is often talked about. I can ask you actually, when it comes to supporting mental health, what do people usually think about? What is the one thing that you need to include into your diet? Feel free to shout.
Mental health, you said?
Yeah.
Meditation?
Meditation, but when it comes to nutrition,
Vegetables.
Yeah? Okay.
Fruit.
Yeah?
Probiotics. Fish.
Yes, omega-3 in the fish, yeah, exactly. Who said probiotics? Yes?
Nuts and seeds.
Yeah, you got it. With probiotics, very often we think mental health, probiotics. But actually, we rarely think about the raw materials to produce serotonin. And my number 1 recommendation is to really focus on tryptophan, right? Is this new for you? Is this something you I'll explain. But basically tryptophan is an amino acid, is an essential amino acid. and it is the precursor to serotonin. So via different pathways, tryptophan is converted to serotonin. In other words, there is no serotonin without tryptophan. And I will say that again, there is no serotonin without tryptophan. And as per so when I say tryptophan, it basically means that you need to up your intake of protein. And as per my calculations, in order to start noticing the benefits of your diet when it comes to mental health, and tryptophan in particular, you want to aim for a minimum of 500 milligrams of tryptophan on a daily basis, which, if my calculation is right, means that you need to eat a minimum of 50 grams of protein per day. For the fit people in the room, you're probably thinking, well, that's pretty easy, 50 grams, it's nothing. But you'd be surprised, especially us ladies, I'm going to look at all you ladies, we do not eat enough protein, right? And in particular, you really want to focus on the type of protein that contains tryptophan, this essential amino acid. Now, this is a question for you. How much protein do you eat in a day? You don't necessarily need to tell me, but I want you to really think about it, right? Do you actually, maybe a question for you, do you track your protein? Yeah. The guys are always like, yeah, I've got it. Ladies? Not really. I had to do that exercise multiple times, and I was actually really shocked because I thought I was eating enough protein, but I was not. And because when we think about protein, we often think muscle synthesis, right? Muscle repair as well. We think about blood sugar management, excellent, but we don't always think about the amino acids which are involved in the production of serotonin, the happy chemical, right? So it does work. So I said minimum 50 grams, but ideally more than that. Now, I want to give you a couple of recipes if you really have no idea, where to start. So there's a QR code. If you scan the QR code, you will have access to the recipes straight away. So if you want to start upping your intake of tryptophan, this is a beautiful warm chicken and bell pepper salad, 280 milligrams of tryptophan. So you're kind of like halfway there, right? And then I've got, and then I've got another one for my vegan and vegetarian friends out there. 40 grams of protein and 468 milligrams of tryptophan. So that's you done for the day, right? So you can also scan the QR code. And when it comes to, changing your diet, I highly recommend, taking a low and slow approach. Don't try to do everything at the same time. So for example, maybe one thing you want to start doing from tomorrow is to really focus on your protein intake, or to focus on the type of protein that contains tryptophan, right? Now, number 2, prebiotics. I know some of you said like fiber, vegetables, fruits, nuts. So what we really want to focus on is prebiotics. So this is basically a type of fiber that is non-digestible, and that serves as food for beneficial bacteria, right? This is the fuel for your beneficial bacteria. And here on the screen, you can see different foods that contain that type of fiber. So prebiotic fiber is essential. And so prebiotic fiber, the way it works is that prebiotic fiber will feed your gut bacteria, and as a byproduct, they will produce short-chain fatty acids such as butyrate, which is the most important one, especially when it comes to supporting mental health. And now, so I was reading a couple of studies, and actually the consensus nowadays is to really make sure that you get 8 grams of prebiotics daily to start noticing the benefits. But what does it look like? I've got it for you. I've got it covered, no worries. Here you've got your daily dose of prebiotics. So if you're interested in boosting your intake of prebiotics, this is what it could look like. 1 tablespoon of chicory root. Chicory root is basically inulin. And for the people here who are interested in, managing their blood sugar levels, inulin happens to be quite sweet. So it's actually a really good, replacement if you don't want to consume your regular, table sugar. So it has a lower glycemic impact. So you get your sweetener, and at the same time, you get your 6 grams of prebiotic fiber to support your mental health. And you've got other options here: garlic, onion, leeks, banana, etc., etc. This is one of my all-time favorites. So this is like mushrooms, leeks, and then sometimes absolutely delicious. So we've got options here. And what I shared in the previous slide is that it can take roughly 3 to 4 weeks to start noticing the benefits, right? So my approach when it comes to supporting the gut microbiome, and I cannot believe that I'm going to quote Bruce Lee here. Long-term, long-term consistency trumps short-term intensity. That's the one, exactly. So when it comes to supporting your gut health, focus on one thing and do it really, really well for 30 days. And then you will start noticing the difference, right? So one thing that that's probably going to be the next one. Oh yeah, so one thing that I want to say, and this is basically like the last recommendation, so it's probiotics. You mentioned it earlier, so probiotics are excellent. But one thing that I want to say about probiotics is that their role is really to improve the absorption of nutrients. So we tend to say, and if you do remember the explanation about the gut microbiome, our gut bacteria support the breakdown of our food. So when we eat food, it is broken down by our digestive secretions, your HCl, so your stomach acid, your digestive enzymes as well. And then when the food goes into your colon, your probiotics, your gut bacteria will then, extract whatever is left. So probiotics really help to support the absorption of nutrients. So what I'm trying to say here is that probiotics will make tryptophan more available, right? So generally, when it comes to supporting your mental health, most people will then, take a probiotic supplement, which is great, but you absolutely need to have your tryptophan as well. So probiotics will make tryptophan more bioavailable, right? So in terms of probiotics that you can start taking every day, actually, let me ask you, do you guys eat probiotic foods on a regular basis? Yes? Ooh, there's a bit of work to do. I love that. So back to what I was saying about Bruce Lee, it's all about consistency, right? So yogurt, kefir, kombucha, kimchi, sauerkraut, you name it. There's loads of fermented foods out there. I would highly recommend having a tiny bit every single day for 30 days or more. And if you're particularly interested in the specific strains of bacteria that are involved in supporting mental health, there are two probiotic strains, Lactobacillus helvetica, I'm not going to try to pronounce it all, Bifidobacterium longum as well. So these ones have been studied to really support or reduce symptoms of depression in about 8 weeks. And this one, the Cerebiome thingy, has been patented. So if you really wanted to buy a probiotic supplement, that's totally fine. I'm not going to be mad, I promise. Right, so when it comes to probiotics, I am someone who loves data, right? So I will show you an amazing study that kind of shows that eating probiotics every single day can have an amazing effect on your mental health. So I'm going to tell you about the yogurt study, very simple, which was conducted at UCLA. So basically what happened is that they had two groups of women aged 18 to 50. And these two groups of women came into a lab, right? And the scientists gave them pictures of different scenarios. And what they did is that they analyzed their reaction via brain scans, right? And then one group started eating yogurt twice per day for 30 days. And when they came back to the lab, what they noticed, the scientists, what they noticed is that the women who ate yogurt twice per day showed changes in the parts of the brain that process emotion. So that's really, really interesting because, again, it goes to show that it doesn't have to take forever, but it's the consistency that really makes a difference, right? So if you are interested in upping your intake of fermented foods or live organisms, I've got a couple of recipes for you. Again, get your phones out. We've got meatballs and sauerkraut. If you're interested, very simple. I'm all about keeping things simple. And then we've got, for my vegan and vegetarian friends and anyone else really, we've got a kimchi tofu scramble, 31 grams of protein and only 10 minutes. All right, so I will let you, scan the thingy. All right, so I kind of want to summarize this. So how to really build a happy plate. So my four recommendations, which are actually really three, you want to aim for a minimum of 50 grams of protein per day. So basic. And you want to aim for a minimum of 500 milligrams of tryptophan per day. But they kind of go together because if you eat enough protein, then you're going to get your tryptophan. And I want you to remember to add 6 grams of prebiotic fiber to your meals. And obviously, you do not want to forget your side of fermented foods. So this is pretty much what I wanted to cover with you. Now, obviously, if you feel like you want to continue the journey with me, if you feel like, oh my goodness, this was really, really cool. However, I really want to understand what's going on with my own unique gut microbiome. First thing first, so I've got a free guide to flawless digestion. You can use a QR code. It's about 10 pages, and we really go back to the basics, right? All the unsexy stuff. And then if you're interested in talking to me about your specific, health challenges, you can book a free 30-minute clarity call. And for Social Wellness Club members, if you're interested in one of my packages, I'm happy to provide a 10% discount. And just to give you kind of an overview, of how it works, if you've never worked with a nutritional therapist or functional medicine practitioner, the way it works is that we start with a 30-minute clarity call, no commitment, like commitment-free, just to kind of have an idea of, how we can work together if we're a good fit. And then, because I'm a data freak, I start gathering a lot of data from a comprehensive intake form, from a comprehensive blood test, a urine test, a stool test. If functional testing is something you want to explore, it's fantastic. And then I create, a bespoke therapeutic plan. So this is really personalized nutrition based on your unique data. With targeted supplements, and I also offer WhatsApp support because I do believe that the core of the work really happens between sessions, not during the sessions. And these are some of my clients' results. They're all over my social media, my website as well. I want to keep it real. I do not edit anything. These are like screenshots of our conversations. We talk about everything. So yeah, that's pretty much what I wanted to cover today. I hope it was useful.